Hi. In this episode, we're talking about how to work with self-publishing authors when they ask you to illustrate their book.
And this is episode 11. 11.
Wow.
I can't believe that. So we're recording this in September, but it's probably not going to drop until the end of the year, December sometime.
Maybe.
So let's wish ourselves a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays,
or Happy Thanksgiving.
I
don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be close to Thanksgiving or Christmas. Let's cover all the bases.
Yeah. So well, I guess let's see. What are we going to be doing in that time? What do you think you'll be doing?
Hopefully I'll be done with the book I'm working on by then, hopefully. And I'll definitely be done with the middle grade cover I'm working on. So that'll be cool.
I can't wait to see.
I'm excited to see how it comes out.
Yeah, it's a quirky story.
Yeah, it's really fun. And Olga, you should almost be done.
I hope. Yeah. According to the timeline, I would be close to the end. Oh my! I'm excited.
I'm excited to see. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that, and maybe by then I'll have a few more news.
Hopefully more news to share. That would be cool.
Yeah. That would be very cool.
Yeah.
And hopefully we see some snow, and who knows?
Yeah, it'll be cooler.
This year was very quick, and maybe because we had the podcast also, it just made the year go by quick. I enjoyed it, and I'm excited. I'm excited about this year.
Yeah, I think having the podcast gave us something to focus on besides just family and work. And yeah, I think
and the pandemic and all of that.
Yes. Yeah, we don't need to focus on those things.
No, because 2020 to me didn't exist. I don't even remember 2020. And sometimes when I, like, oh yeah, last year, I'm actually referring to 2019 because 2020 was
it was a blur. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
But well, let's get into this one. This was a great episode, and a lot of people will be able to use part of this.
Yeah, and I think anyone who is looking to go into children's book illustration will be asked this question at one time by a self-publishing author. Will you illustrate my book?
I think everyone in your journey, no matter if you want to end up in traditional publishing or not, at some point, I think in your career, you are going to be illustrating for self-publishing authors. It's just part of the journey, and you learn as you do it.
I think it's okay. It's okay. Hi, Loki. I don't. If it's not something you want to pursue or participate in, that's totally fine. But I think it is a good place to start. But there are so many things that you need to consider and take into account before you say yes, or before you say even think about illustrating a book for someone.
And not just a place to start. It is a career, legitimately. You can continue and make your entire journey just this. You don't have to go into traditional publishing if that's not what you want.
And that's really true. And I didn't used to think that, and I was very focused on going to traditional publishing, and I wanted to leave self-publishing behind. But I think when you value your work and you price your work accordingly, that you're more comfortable working in these price ranges, and you also are very careful about who you work with, it can definitely be a career. I have no doubt.
And you can make money, and like if you price your work correctly, and you give yourself the time, and you know how to filter through the good options and the bad options. And I think the information that we're going to give in this one, this is all stuff that we have dealt with, and it is all coming from personal experience. Maybe your experience will be different. This is just our advice as to how to handle it.
Yeah, because it can be it is there are a lot of pitfalls that you could encounter if you don't know these things ahead of time. And we have
fallen into these pitfalls. So
yeah. So the main thing, so when someone first approaches you, and typically they will not have all the information that you need. It's usually just, hey, I have a story about this. Will you illustrate? Can you illustrate it? that's not enough information for you to give a good answer. So that there's a lot of things there's information you should gather from them before you can give them a quote, or before you can say yes or no.
Before we start, maybe I think it helps a little bit to put yourself in somebody else's shoes for a minute. An author writes a book, and a lot of the times you're going to find someone who wrote their first book, and this is my first book and I'm excited about it, and they don't know the entire process of it, so they approach you with the book that they love, and they might have not edited, and they might not have the budget for it, they might not have the time frame correct, all of this stuff. But it's not like, oh, there's, you know, the illustrator versus the writer. It's not. It's just that sometimes in the illustration you have a little more experience because you've done a few more, and the author's coming to you with their first book and they don't really understand the entire spectrum of the process.
Yes, very true.
So sometimes it's not a smooth, you know, it's not a smooth project.
Yeah. Well, and that's why just opening a dialogue with the person and asking them a few questions can help you decide how you can help them proceed, or if you should proceed together. Because a lot of times I just end up offering advice. If they tell me, you know, this is my first manuscript, or I just have a book idea, things like that, then I tell them, oh, well, you know what, your next step should probably be this. Maybe I don't think you might not be ready for illustrations yet. You know, like if you're not complete, if the manuscript isn't finished, I always recommend they have an editor look at it, or a critique group, or beta readers, especially if I've read the manuscript. And that's the first thing you should always ask to see the manuscript. Some authors aren't comfortable sharing it, and that's fine. If an author isn't comfortable sharing their manuscript with me, which is rare, usually they're fine with it. An illustrator is not going to steal your story.
Right.
That it's not something we're interested in. And authors are very protective of their work, but so are illustrators.
But you can at least get an idea.
Even an excerpt.
It's a book about, you know, butterflies that are in the garden, and the subject is about education or whatever it may be, or about friendship. Then at least you know exactly, okay, it's going to be a forest scene, it's going to be animals, and the subject matter that you might feel comfortable or not comfortable illustrating. So.
Right, because sometimes the subject they give you and then the manuscript they give you is very different. Somebody sent me a story idea, and the story was about an opossum, and it sounded adorable, who was like a rock star or something. But then when I got the manuscript, it was a little more religious than I was comfortable doing. So I didn't go with that. You know, it's like that. They didn't divulge everything about the book. So that's why, even though if they give you an idea of the story, it still may not be what the story is actually about when you get the manuscript. So it's really good to be able to read it. And if they don't want to share the full manuscript, they can just share even just like a paragraph or a few sentences, just so you can see what their writing style is like and what the book will sound like.
And then let's say you just need the money, you want the money, then
the experience.
Then illustrate it, but maybe don't use your name. You can do it anonymously, and that's not the way you say the word anonymously. Or use a pseudonym and just make that your, hey, this is my making money name, and then you leave your name and your brand intact for the illustrations that you want to show. But that doesn't mean don't do your best work. I mean, because you want the experience, you want to go ahead and learn from this, and maybe use some of these illustrations, you know, without having a relationship to the book. I'm so sorry, this is not gonna work with him here. Come here, be a good boy. Let me just get him down. Here you go. Maybe it won't be, don't use it as a with relationship to the book, but you can put it in your website. You can use it for self-promotion. So still do the best work you can possibly, but you can hide your name. You can do it and not be affiliated with the book.
Yeah.
Or just ask them not to put your name at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And if many authors are totally fine with that. And you have to also remember that, yeah, if your name is on the book and your art is associated with the book, this is a product that's going to be out there for in self-publishing. There is no print run time limit. It'll be forever. It could be forever. So you want to make sure that the quality of your work, and then, you know, the book is at least something you're proud of having your name on.
So what are so let's discuss some of the things that we need to consider when you're starting a book in self-publishing. Are they going to hire a graphic designer? Do they already know the amount of text? Can they tell you how much text is going to be in the back cover, for example, or something, so that you know how you're going to do your art? A lot of the times they don't figure that out ahead of time.
Yeah.
And you do the artwork, and then they on their side have to figure out how to put the text, and it's not going to fit, or they have to overlap the illustrations. Then they might have to come back and ask you for a revision. Hey, are you able to take these characters out of here because the text doesn't fit? So it's best if they already have this set up ahead of time, but sometimes they don't.
So yeah, so you can block out enough space for the text. And that another thing we didn't mention with the manuscripts, there needs to be a finished manuscript when they approach you as an illustrator.
Right.
If the manuscript is not finished and they say they're still editing it or it's still being worked on, that's a red flag, because you have to know how much text will go on every page so you can plan your illustrations for each page.
Or you can offer those, not the services of editing, but you can offer pretty much, if you know Photoshop and InDesign, you can offer those services as, you know, to figure out where the text is going to go, and charge for that. It's a separate fee because it's a separate job.
Well, but even as an illustrator, so if you're an illustrator and you can do graphic design services, then yes, you can offer those services. But if they are hiring a graphic designer, then it's beneficial for you to work with the designer from the beginning of your illustrations. So the designer can tell you, okay, this text needs to go on this page. This is how much we're going to put here. What?
Loki is taking a bath and he's splashing me. He takes a bath in this little cup.
Can we see him? I want to see him.
Let's see.
He won't do it now. He knows he's on camera.
Yeah, he's
he's doing. He's adorable.
And the thing is, he's shaking.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is
he's
that?
He's really getting in there. It's raining. It's raining.
Because I drank tea and I'm like, did I spill? And now I see it's all.
No. I can't see the water.
This is too funny because I am getting soaked.
He's fine with it. He's like,
he doesn't care.
You're sitting there. He's giving you a bath.
I'm getting a shower too.
He thinks you need a shower.
Oh my gosh, my papers, my everything. I'm not drinking this tea anymore because I don't know what's in it.
There's bird feathers.
And this is what happens in the middle of recording. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. He's fine.
He's not done.
I told you he's our mascot now.
He's gonna have to be. We had to bring him in here because he was screaming out there, and oh my goodness. Seriously. Okay, that's
adorable.
You were funny, but oh boy. God,
what were we talking about?
I'm so
graphic
sorry.
designer. Yeah. Oh, so if you are not a graphic designer, it's beneficial for you to work with a designer from the beginning when you're planning out your sketches and planning out the page, just the page layouts, just so you know what text will go where. But even if you don't have that option, you can just do like, I do lines on the page. I do, I indicate where the text will be just in my thumbnail sketches, just so that's something you have to plan for as an illustrator. You have to plan for the text and where it'll go with your illustrations. Yeah.
I got all distracted. Sorry.
Okay. I'm refocus.
I'm trying to refocus.
Um,
Get back in the conversation. Here we go.
Another thing you need to ask an author is, do they require cover art for the book?
Right, because you can price those separately. So
I
a lot
do.
of people, and this is something we have encountered too. Someone hired another author, other illustrator to do the cover, and then they want drawings for inside the book, or vice versa. And it's just, you either have to try to match, they want you to try to match the style. So the pricing is different for covers than interior illustrations.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that you might encounter as well.
And some authors, to save money, will try to use interior illustrations for the cover. And I don't recommend that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's okay, but it usually makes it difficult to use it on the cover, because you're not planning for the cover title, the book title on the cover when you're drawing the interior pages. So it's kind of messy.
And the cover is it has to encompass the entire story. I'm not saying every character has to be there, every scene, no, but the entire feel of what the story is. And an interior illustration won't be that, but but again, they are working with a budget, and it's not like working with an entire production team. So you have to understand that sometimes it might be like, no, I have to use this because that's as far as my budget can stretch. So it's fine. You pretty much have to understand you're they're the client, and that's what they want, and that's fine. So be it.
Yeah, you have to do the best you can within their budget and their parameters, because everyone has different wants and needs. If you are doing the cover, then you need to try to get or you can ask the author for a cover template, or you can go get your own if they're doing print on demand. If they're printing with Ingram Sparks, then they have a cover template that you can download, and KDP on Amazon has a cover template you can get. And many illustrators don't realize you need to have your artwork on the cover template to submit it, typically.
I know the dimensions of the book ahead of time, so you have all your
so the art's the right size.
Right. And this has happened as well, that I had to, and you, I think, as well, that you had to change the illustrations to fit the dimensions after the illustrations were done, and that's a pain in the butt. Like, you don't want to have to do that.
Yeah, it was the second book I ever worked on, so I didn't have a lot of experience, and the author wanted the book to be 8.5 by 11, not portrait, but horizontal, landscape, like side to side, so like rectangular. And so I did all the illustrations that way. And then when I was also formatting the book, so I should have checked this. But okay, in my defense, it does say on Amazon 8.5 by 11, but it doesn't specify, like, is this portrait,
landscape or portrait?
Landscape or portrait. So I saw 8.5 by 11. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And then I did all the art, and then found out, no, that is for portrait. So all of my art, we compromised and we cut it all down to 8.5 by 8.5. So it just, all the art was square, which worked out okay.
Actually,
worked out better than trying to elongate everything to fit. That would have been,
oh gosh, no, I mean, this is not a matter of just and it's not a matter of just adding more background, because then your whole illustration, everything, the feel of it changes. Like, you have all these little tiny characters. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and a lot of times authors don't realize when you're drawing for a picture book, you draw in the 2-page spread. Like, you don't draw single pages by single pages usually, unless it is a single page. But even then, I still draw it as a 2-page spread, and there's just 1 page on each side. So when you have to crop it, you're cropping 2 pages together, or just like trying to piece it all together.
Usually, and this is just illustration only kind of speaking, if your story is character based, it's usually a portrait book. And if it's more like more landscape based, more about the environment or a group, is usually done in landscape format. And then you have the square ones that is just fits both.
Yeah, Square seems to be the most popular for self-publishing. And I think it's because those are cheap, a little cheaper to print, I think. It's also a common size. It's easier to transport.
I was gonna say it's easier to put them in little kids' backpacks and little kids' hands can hold them, because often kids carry them from any side. It fits better, so it's smaller. Easier to ship.
Easier to ship, yeah. And another thing, if you're asking, another reason why you need to find out how you find out the dimensions, but you have to ask, how are they going to print the book? Because different printers offer different dimensions. So if you, like what happened to me, she wanted landscape, no printers offered that. I didn't know that, but it could have been possible that a different printer may have offered those dimensions if she went with them. So it's important for the author to know how they plan to print the book before they even hire the illustrator. These are things that a lot of authors don't think about.
That's the stuff that you will bring up as an illustrator. If they haven't thought about it already, just you want to make sure that this is all planned out before you get started.
Yeah.
Another thing to consider, it's going to be your budget, the time frame,
or their budget.
Yeah, we're going to discuss how you would price it, what like what you said, the price for a cover is different than the price for interior illustrations. A lot of authors that are self-publishing want to save money, so they might not want a wraparound cover, and they might just want to do a flat color in the back. You want to have all of this figured out when you do your pricing and your contract.
Yeah. So you want to know what you'll price per page for illustrations. You want to know what you'll price for a cover, either a wraparound or just the front cover. And you want to know, if you offer design services, what your price is for design services for the book. Different illustrators price differently. I don't know if we should go into like full pricing breakdowns on how to price your work.
Well, we're going to do a whole episode on how to price your work, but we can get into this
just a
little bit. So this is advice coming from us. You can price your work however you feel you're comfortable to do it, but it works best to price it per page instead of pricing it
easier
per illustration. Then you can just say, whatever your number is. I don't want to throw a number out there, but whatever. From about 100 to 300 per page. How is that for a range?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair price range. Yes.
Yeah,
in self-publishing. Yeah.
That's per page. So that does not mean a spread. A spread is 2 pages together with a gutter in the middle. So per page. But what I would say, if it's a spread, if it's an illustration that goes around the 2 pages, that it spreads on 2 pages, then I would go ahead and price that as 1 page or maybe a page and a half in price.
I just do it as 2 pages.
If you do it to 2 pages, that's because you might get like pushback from the writer, but wait a minute, but that's one illustration. Why am I having? I'm like, you still have to design it and you still have to do it.
Yeah.
So I will go ahead and do it as I would do it as a page and a half price. The thing with this is, because it's so budget conscious, they might want to say, oh no, then go ahead and do every page as a spread. That doesn't work in a picture book. You need to.
That's why I don't do that.
Yeah, that's what. But at the end of the day, it is their book, and this is what we're talking to the author helps, because they have to understand that it's not just pictures, it's not just stickers that you're putting on a picture that is helping you tell the story, and there is actually a way to do this correctly. How to pace your story, how to make it go faster, how to make it go slower, how to make the anticipation of turning that page. It's not just, you're not decorating the page for your words to look pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So price it however you feels right to you. Yeah. But do not undervalue your work.
Sorry, I want to cover one more thing before we do that. And another reason why it's good to focus. It's better for you as the illustrator to just price per page. If you give them options like a spot illustration is less, a half page
Right.
illustration is less, full page illustration is more, 2-page spread is more, then the author will probably likely choose every page to cut down. The author might choose spot illustrations for every single page to cut down the price. And that makes it more difficult for you as an illustrator to illustrate the book, actually. And because you have to plan spot illustrations only for the whole book. And then I think that sacrifices the quality of your work and the quality of the book. So I just eliminate that by saying price. I think that eliminates that option by just pricing per page, and then you can choose what illustrations go on each page.
I think a good idea is not to put your prices online and try to, because each book has to be different. Read the manuscript, see what it needs. And that's why it's a good idea to let the illustrator read the manuscript, because you can see, okay, this scene can be something a little bit more not so literal. You don't need so many characters in this one. This is an emotion piece. It could be a close-up. It doesn't need as much background. This could get away with just being a spot illustration. This will work better if it's a spot illustration as opposed to a full spread. So it actually helps if the illustrator can read the manuscript and figure it out. I mean, it's super important, but we're talking here that sometimes self-publishers don't want to give you the story.
Well, and that's the only way for the illustrator to be able to figure out how many pages there are. Right. A lot of times authors will put in their own page breaks, which is fine, but the story may not work as well where the page breaks are that they've put them.
Now, another way of pricing is the entire book. And just say, the entire book is this much. Yeah. And plug your numbers there. So figure out how long it's going to take you, how many pages are going to be illustrated, and what you feel comfortable doing. Now, understand how long it's going to take you to illustrate is very different from how long it's actually going to take to get this book out there, because in between that, you're going to have times for approvals of sketches. And it all has to work within the time and the time frame. Yeah. So
and that's why you need to find out what their time frame is, because how long it takes you may not be how long
it takes them.
They need it. Yeah. If they need it in 3 months and it takes you 4 months, then they might.
And that's something else too. If they need it in 3 months, this book is going to be more expensive. True. And that's something you have to, there is no reason for you to work your fingers to the bone to try to make this book fit in this time frame for the same price. It is a service. Like if you were to go and pay for expedited shipping, it's going to cost more than regular shipping. So it would be the same thing in this situation. If you're asking me to illustrate a book and it is a rush job, well, okay, fine. I might be able to do it, but it's going to cost a rush job. Like that's what it is.
Well, because you can't take on anything else during that time. You're only focused on that. And so you have to account for, I cannot work on any other assignments. I cannot take any other clients. It's just you. And I'm fine focusing on you if you pay me enough. For 3 months.
There's a sign that I used to see it a lot in stores that said lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if you wrote a book and you want it to be a Christmas release, but don't write it in October and expect the illustrator to be done, and then you send it to the printer by November, it's not going to happen. It's just like, then write it in February and give it to me by March, and I'll have it ready for you before Christmas.
First time authors don't understand the timeline required to print a book, so that happens so often. And so they usually learn after the first book, but as an illustrator, it benefits you to know how long it takes you to produce the book, how long it will take for printing, so you can let the author know, hey, just because I'm done in 4 months or 5 months, you should allow this amount of time either for the design work or the printing, or, give yourself at least another month to 2 months to work all of that other, work the rest of it out. So 6 months to 7 months before you need it is probably, even a year should be
Right.
your
The more time
timeline.
that you give yourself if you're writing the book, the best it will be.
Mhm.
You'll have more time to shop around. You'll have more time for oopsies
Yeah.
that happen in life. That,
Yeah.
I think the pandemic that has helped for people to understand that the world is very connected, and something that happens in another country affects your
True.
shipping, affects your manufacturing, affects your
Yeah. There
raw
was a paper
materials.
shortage
Yes.
for a while.
It
So,
affects everything. It's all very connected. So understand that sometimes you cannot control something that's happening somewhere else, and it affects your timeline.
mhm, very true. And if they're using offset printing, which is through a printer, that's gonna change their timeline, even
Right.
make it take even longer. So for when you're pricing your work, sorry, Olga, you were mentioning don't undervalue your work.
Yeah, no,
But
you're
yeah,
fine.
which goes into how to price your work.
No, I understood why you had to go into pricing. I get that, because it's one of the biggest questions that everybody has, and
Mm,
everybody's, again, we're afraid to give numbers because it's like, oh no, but so and so said it had to be this, and so pricing, it has to be, it's, I don't know what your situation is. I don't know how badly you need money in that moment. I don't know how your bills are. I don't know um your experience level. So
mhm.
pricing, it has to be something you're comfortable, but please don't just give your work away either.
Yeah,
That's the thing about this industry. I know, like, I don't know why it's just so undervalued when it
yeah,
comes to pricing.
yeah.
um I never go to the grocery store and go to someone, I go, no, you want 29 cents per the bananas, but no, I'm going to give you 15. No, you're not. You just, that's the price. You want bananas, you pay for the bananas, and that's it. But with this, it's always, but can we negotiate? I'm fine. It's an industry where you negotiate pricing, but there has to be a bottom line that you just don't cross. And it's kind of like, this is, if I'm going to lose money working on this, because I could pick up another job that pays more for my same my time,
Yeah.
then it has to be part of your equation.
But I think with experience, definitely with experience comes how helps you feel comfortable and more comfortable in pricing your work.
Yes,
So I've
yes.
said this before, there are some people who will give price quotes of like $20 a page, which yes is very low, but
Wow, yeah.
when I did the first book that I ever did, I had never done any books. I didn't know what the pricing range was. I didn't know how to find resources to tell me what my prices should be. And I had no idea how long it would take. So if people are inexperienced and they're charging low rates, it is within the author can totally hire them. I mean, that
Mhm.
and especially if it's an inexperienced author and an inexperienced illustrator, it's their choice to hire them, but it's also the illustrator's choice to charge those prices. But as an experienced illustrator, I will not charge those prices because I do value my work and my time. So I'm okay with authors who don't have, because some authors don't have the budget to hire me, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
I would rather you go work with someone who charges less, because then you'll be happier and they'll be happier. I don't expect someone to spend money that they don't have. That's my
Right, that they're
because
not comfortable paying
yeah,
either,
I
right?
want them to work with someone that they're comfortable paying those prices. So it I think it all works out in the end. Authors who have a certain budget should find illustrators who are within that budget. Authors who have a higher budget should work with illustrators who have, higher price ranges.
This conversation about pricing gets more complicated because
Yeah.
we are in, it is a global economy, and like everything is online, and it's very easy to hire someone who is overseas in another country where the price, the dollar
Yeah.
value is different. So when you say that some people would charge $20 for, some illustrators will charge $20 for
Usually
a
they're
page,
overseas. Yeah.
they're overseas, and $20 might be a good amount in that
Mhm.
country, where here $20 won't even fill your tank, your gas tank.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's not easy to be in the same level of travel, and that's why, and there's options. So yes, there's some illustrators overseas, and there's some really good illustrators overseas that are able to do this. So
But I feel bad that they,
also,
I wish that they could get the same. I wish they were able, I wish they would charge the same rates that we're
I
getting.
wish,
Because,
but the thing is,
but,
in that country,
mhm.
it would be an incredible amount, like a kind of like if I were to
Yeah.
say, yes, it's going to be $1,000 per page. Nobody would pay that here.
Mhm.
So they're able to work with authors from the United
Yeah.
States, for example. But on that,
He's telling us how much he charges.
he wants us to send. So what I'm trying to say is, it's good. They need to earn a living as well. And
Yeah.
but you are working with, but there's another layer to that. You're working with someone who's in another country, who
Yes.
might interpret the illustrations differently than it would be here.
Yeah.
There might be a language barrier. There might be a time difference.
There's there might be a culture. There's a cultural difference
as well, and the time, like, they're sleeping when you're awake.
Yeah.
That you might not be able to have any. Signing a contract might mean nothing.
True.
Also, because what are you going to do? Get lawyers
They're
from
in a
here
different
to go
country.
find someone in
Yeah.
another country?
Yeah.
So all of that stuff you also have to consider. So this is kind of like, it is a bit of a gamble. It is a bit of a game that you play, and what risk are you willing to take?
Right.
So that's all that falls into, what am I going to do? I have seen authors look for illustrators who are in their state. That's how, like, that's how close they want to be, or hands-on they want to be with the project, that they actually say, I actually want to meet face to face. Zoom has helped with that, but that, I have seen that. I want a local artist, or I want someone who's very familiar with the Virginia woods, or a specific area, because they want the illustrations to be accurate. So all of that has to be considered in all of this process.